Hashtag. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thank God. It's the 3rd of December, Rabbi Levitt Horeb.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so
Almost finished. Wow. Then I have to figure out another book.
I would like to go to the Navi.
Okay, I'm game.
Yeah, because we haven't done the Navim. Haven't finished the Navim yet. Morning, Mayor. Good morning, Alan.
Morning. Do you hear all that drilling you're doing?
Yeah. Wow. Sounds like they're really doing something over there.
You can see it, Rabbi. It's a total mess.
What street is this on?
Fun.
Haran? Oh, Rehov Paran. Oh, across from the shopping center.
Down the street from the shopping center.
Yeah, it's actually almost adjacent to it.
Yeah, it's not far from the shopping center.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay.
So, without further ado, we're going to go to chapter 113. Language.
I'm wondering, Rabbi, since we're only a couple of weeks away from the end, maybe we should decide what we're going to get next so we have time to buy the books.
Okay. So, my suggestion is to learn, I don't know exactly which sefer. I have to take a look, but I'd like to do something in Tanakh from either Nevi'im or Ksuvim. We've already done some Nafshi. We started from Yeshua, then Shoftim, then Shmuel, and Malachim, and Yeshaya, Baruch Hashem. And so I'd like to do something other than those Sporim, something that's that narrates the history of Klal Yisrael. Not interested in trying to explain difficult psukim that are not that talk about mashalim or things of that sort. But that we could get so like that. You're talking about and Yirmiyahu is not so upbeat. It's a lot of story about the Horeb, destruction of the temple, the beforehand and the aftermath. And the thing with Daniel, it's in Aramaic, so the translation is very, I mean, in any case, we're gonna probably everybody's gonna have an arts, I would assume a translation available, not just to read it from the, try to break our teeth translating, but to, just to go through the psukim and see the history of Klal Yisrael after in Eretz Israel, and so that's one of the. Then of course there would be there's a possibility of doing Treyasar. Um,
I find that Zer Shimshon is very good.
what's that?
Zer Shimshon
I didn't hear.
by Seltzer. Rabbi Seltzer.
Rabbi Seltzer.
By not 18th century by Rabbi Shimshon Chaim Nachman.
No, I want to do something from Tanakh.
You mean straightforward?
Something from Tanakh. I mean, with everybody's permission, of course.
Fine with me.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, so that's exactly the point. We should all have the same sefer. We don't want to get into the situation that we had with Nefesh HaChaim.
So maybe we do Daniel. That's got a lot of history in it, right? It's all the discussion of Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not a long sefer either. So if you don't like it, it won't be too long before we finish it. So, but
Criteria.
It's 12 parakim, Daniel.
yeah, I mean, it's yeah. I mean, it's
Do you have a book to recommend, Mayor?
No, I just have the Art Scroll Daniel here.
Is that a good book?
Yeah, I find Art Scroll very interesting. I used a lot of they have a lot of references that you could also explore too.
And the English translation is a smooth translation?
Let's see.
I have Shmuel and Kings.
Shnat Chadash. Chada. It's pretty I mean it's easy to read. And I'm just trying to see if it's actually a good translation though. I have to maybe get back to you on that.
Okay. Alan, did you say you wanted to do something different?
Zer Shimshon by Seltzer. It's by Rabbi Shimshon Chaim Nachman.
We wanted to go to the actual text of something in the Tanakh. With you, Alan, or you don't like that?
What's that?
To actually pick a sefer from the Tanakh. and then find a translation of it.
Oh,
Do you have this book, Alan? You have it in your house?
I just straight English.
I would rather something that has rather something from Tanakh.
All right, so Mayor, why don't you go ahead and do your checking, and then maybe tomorrow we can discuss whether you think you could recommend that book.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
no problem.
Yeah, that looked like a rather thick book, Mayor.
No, it's not that thick. I mean, yeah, again, it has
How many
the
pages is it?
Art Scroll commentary, 12 chapters. It ends on,
I have
it
Kings.
is thick, I guess. 300, it ends on 329.
Wow.
I have Joshua and Judges and Kings, one and two.
Yeah. Yeah, those are all good suggestions, but I wanted to do something that we haven't learned before, and we've already learned those Sforim here in Samanafshi, even though actually probably this was before you were here in Samanafshi.
What about Shoftim?
Hello.
Yeshua and Shoftim.
231.
Yeah, we did Yeshua, we did Shoftim, we did Malachim.
231.88. Okay, I'll write it down.
What about Kings? You do Kings?
What else?
Did you do Kings?
Yeah, Malachim is kings.
Written anything down, man? I'm going to write down 231.88. Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, Daniel actually would be very interesting coming up before Purim, because that's the Sefer Daniel is the historical timeline of Daniel is very much the preamble to the whole episode of Purim. So we'd be preparing for Purim.
That sounds good.
Oh yeah, and the other thing though is, practically speaking, would we be able to get this copy of Daniel? Because probably the last time that was printed by Art Scroll was 30 years ago.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. This is probably an older version. Yeah. Let's see.
I don't know if they're printing them these days.
You're right. This is from 1998, this copy.
Oh. So
So it's the fifth impression. I guess we can go on to one of the bookstores on the line and see what the latest
Large scroll online.
Art Scroll. Oh yeah, go right to Art Scroll. That's true.
I have a book that has Daniel, Ezra, and let me.
Okay, let's see. Can you show? Can you put it up to the screen? Let's see it.
This is Daniel.
The what about the? You have the front page.
The cover, Alan? Just to see what it looks like.
Want the title page or just the first page?
Yeah, just the front cover.
The
Cover.
cover of the book.
Oh, that's a very scholarly edition that you have.
Is that an art scroll?
Yeah. Yeah, they actually Art Scroll did come out, but that I don't think that has any English in it, does it?
It's Art Scroll. Yeah.
It does have English in it?
Yep, English and Hebrew. Yep.
Oh, it's more recent than mine.
Okay, so that
That
would,
Yeah.
I think that would be the, I mean, how much English is in it though? Is it
There's a whole bunch.
all the bottom is in English?
There's Hebrew and then there's Rashi. What's Evan Ezra?
Okay, that's
Nehemiah.
oh, they put Daniel, Ezra, and Nehemiah all together.
Yeah.
Okay, so you already got it.
Rabbi Meir Zlotwitz, Rabbi Nelson Sherman, from 2016.
Alan,
2016.
can you bring that today?
Yeah.
Let me have it so I can see if I can find it online.
From Daniel Ezra and Nehemiah. Okay. Then I have a Sefer Tehillim, Rabinovich, which is very good.
Okay, good.
So we'll check out both books. Mir Hashem.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see the difference between the one from 30 years ago and the one that they printed 8 years ago or 7 years ago. Okay. Okay, so we're back in Horeb, and we are up to language.
Language, got it.
And I think this is the only chapter that did not have a corresponding Hebrew title. Don't know why. I guess we'll see. So without further ado, let's call upon Lou to start the reading.
can be no doubt that the language in which we have to fulfill this inner divine worship, that is the language in which we pray, must be in accordance with the concept of tefillah, one that our mind and heart can understand. Only then can it be a true means of speaking our mind and heart and of preparing them for life. Our sages, in explaining the expression tefillah b'lashonam, in this sense, lay stress on rachamei ninahu. That is, that the prayer should raise man in the purest perfection to be a child towards his Father in heaven, perceiving the Father everywhere, allowing everything to be permeated by the thought of the Father, resolving the whole world and the whole of life in the single relationship of father and child. The fruit of prayer is the purification of thoughts and emotions. This can be produced only in a language that appeals to your thoughts and emotions. In a similar way, we must explain the saying of our sages, Ubirkas b'chol lashon she'ata mivarech, and thou shalt bless in any language that you understand. And again, Shema b'chol lashon she'ata shomea. Hear, O Israel, in any language that you understand. Our sages thus make it quite clear that though we have received from their hands tefillah in the Hebrew language, he who does not know this language and prays in a language that he understands fulfills his duty as long as he faithfully mentions all the essential parts of the prescribed forms of prayer. They have stated this generally, as well as concerning the individual parts of the divine service. Even Kriyas Shema, which has the character of a primal source and might well be supposed to be obligatory in the original language, may, according to the decisive declaration of authorities, be said in a faithful and exact translation that does not depart from the literal text. The same applies to Mikra.
Megillah.
Pardon?
Mikra Megillah.
Mikra Megillah. Only Kriyas HaTorah, the reading of the law, and Birkat Kohanim, the blessing of the Kohanim, must be said exclusively in the original language. The former probably because it must remain a pure source of practical guidance, which is laid down in the text of the Torah explicitly and implicitly, and cannot possibly be publicly read in translation without distorting the original. The mission of Israel depends upon the preservation of faithfulness in the text of the Torah, since the bond with the heritage of Yaakov is renewed in the Kriyas HaTorah. Even the recitation of the Targum introduced in former times could not be substituted. That became unintelligible by any other translation, there being no other rendering possessing the authority of that of Unclos. It is dangerous to set an unauthoritative translation next to the text of the Torah and give it public recognition by means of public recitation. A faithful translation of Megillas Esther, reproducing everything may be used by those who do not know Hebrew, as it is primarily intended to commemorate publicly the miraculous deliverance, presume Nisa, and unlike the reading from the Torah, does not contain laws for our guidance in practical life. Thus, he who does not know Hebrew, not having had the chance or the ability to learn it, should use a literal translation of the prayers into the language most intelligible to him. I think I'd like to pass the baton at this point, as this goes on forever.
Very well. Okay. Mary, would you like to continue?
Okay. Excuse me. One should, however, beware of deducing from this that there is nothing wrong in general in introducing the vernacular into divine worship. The statements made above apply primarily to him who does not know Hebrew at all. Those in Israel that know not Hebrew always form the exception. He who does not know Hebrew must try nevertheless to acquire an understanding of the tefillah in that language. It is the first and earliest duty of the father to introduce his child into the holy language of the prayers and the Torah. That which was missed in early education must be rectified by the individual himself. If our divine worship were generally to be held in the vernacular, one would have to consider the loss of much that is important and invaluable and forfeit that which is of infinite significance. Let this one thought be considered among many which claim our attention. The prayers given into our hands are, according to our presentation above, the expression of Israel's collective religious national thoughts declared by men who were the flower of the nation in order that the individual and the nation should acquire them for themselves. They are the spiritual expression of Jewish thinking and living. They have been handed down to us so that we should acquire them for ourselves and through them improve our intellectual and emotional life, and thus educate all the generations of Israel to the zenith of our religious national existence. It should therefore not be a matter of indifference that the thoughts expressed in our prayers be given to each age in their pure, preserved, and unchanged form. It is important that no part of our liturgy should be replaced by thoughts alien to Judaism, which, when introduced into the general scheme, would gain authority and sanctity. How much more is this? Second. Oh, it's almost over. Oh, no, it's not. Okay, I'll do one more paragraph. In the case of almost every translation, it is difficult to reproduce even one line without doing injustice to the original. It is almost impossible to translate Hebrew into any other language since they are so different from one. I'm sorry. Since they are so different one from another, both in origin and in spirit. It is thus inevitable that the foreign word will not exactly correspond to the Hebrew concept, and that essential idea relationships will be forfeited and new ones produced, and that certain thoughts may be introduced that are strange not only to the Hebrew language, but to the whole spirit of Judaism. There is more in this which should be considered. It is certainly not without reason that the scattered members of the house of Israel in all lands of their dispersion everywhere retained for 18 centuries the Hebrew divine worship and nowhere associated the language of the land with their public worship, despite the fact that they had before them the legal declaration of the sages. I don't know, maybe someone else should read.
Okay, Alan, would you like to continue?
A lot of noise here, but okay, what page we on now?
546, and there's a paragraph about 10 lines down, although it is.
Okay. Although it is undoubtedly true that individuals who do not know Hebrew and cannot learn it may pray in a language that they can understand. Yet, should the prayers be translated into another language and in the form be introduced into general use, one of the aims of our sages would be destroyed. In that case, the factor which was the main support in those against assimilation would cease to operate, and the education towards continuous improvement, which it was meant to ensure, would fail. When Israel's men and women, sons and daughters, have all raised themselves to the level of a fearless, self-creatingly acquiring thoughts of expressed therein, that Israel's education will have been reached its fruition, and the discipline of the Gulf will no longer be necessary. Were we to remove the path leading us to this height, it would mean barring the way further to future generations, and we tend to drag down to our own level, that which would raise us. The community is not in truth as a single individual. The individual may and should consider his specific circumstances. He may and should use which are to hand as a help and as witness. A community, however, has to consider the future generations and everything that it does. For a community is eternal and can always be rejuvenated. A community as a community is never incapable of fulfilling its task. When the older ones cannot do it, then the younger generation enters into the ranks of the community, and in 20 years or so, the general body can be rejuvenated and strengthened. The younger generation achieving that which the older one did not attain. Community carries all the sanctions of Israel for the future generations. It must be, therefore, beware of undermining what is by no means the least important pillar of the community, namely a voda, which is a communal prayer language. When the Enos Kones on
Gedola.
Okay. The leaders of our national community composed of our prayers. Hebrew has already ceased to be the proper tongue, and the understanding of the Torah of the Calvin Targum was necessary. Yet they chose Hebrew only, as they wished not only to satisfy the transitory need, but acknowledging to the full significance the task of our people in the world. They wish to set standards toward which Israel should be educated in the future. One must consider how the community of the national institution of the Avoda would be endangered if it were clothed in the language of the country. What would we do if our fathers had adopted the old Germanic and Roman dialects, the language of our communal prayers? Do we wish to be less to our children than our fathers were to us? One has, moreover, to consider the Hebrew time worship in the Gauls. It is most important spiritual bond that still unites in the house of house of Hashem, the dispersed members of our nation, east and west, north and south. Furthermore, in our age, which has become estranged from the studying Torah, the demand must be forced for knowledge of its language and the treasury of the Bible and the works of our sages. The person who knows not Hebrew, as long as he is not person who knows not Hebrew, as long as he has not removed his disability, may use a translation of the prayers, but he must ensure that the translation is true to the original. In our community, however, the Hebrew heritage of Jacob must be preserved. In our homes and schools, the younger generation must be strengthened with the true spirit of Israel that knows the language of our people, finding only therein satisfaction and inspiration before God. When this be the case, there will be no more talk of there being Jews among our sons and daughters who did not know the Hebrew tongue.
Oh, very interesting point that Rev Hirsch says here towards the bottom of page 546. He says that the Anshe Knesset Gedola, they were in the time of the beginning of the second temple. So that's after Hanukkah and after Purim, and Klal Yisrael is coming back from Hutzlart's bubble to come to Eretz Yisrael, even though not a lot of them came actually originally, but they were situated in Eretz Yisrael, and he says that they're the ones that composed the tefillas, and he says that Lashon HaKodesh, the Hebrew language, had already ceased to be the popular language that people spoke in, that people knew, that they were familiar with. And so for the understanding of the Torah, they needed to have a Targum Unclis. And so it wasn't their language that was their they were very familiar with, but he says nevertheless they chose to compose the prayers in Lashon HaKodesh. So why did they do that? That wasn't the popular language of the Jewish people at that time. So he says they wished not only to satisfy the transitory need, meaning that they did have translation, they had the Targum of Unclis, but acknowledging to the full the significance and the task of our people in the world, they wish to set standards towards which Israel should be educated in the future. So if the prayers are going to be in Hebrew, so then that will set the standard that the Jewish people who are faithful to the tradition, to fulfilling what it says in the Torah, they'll educate their children to be familiar with the Hebrew language. Yeah, so that'll be interesting point. The Sefer Daniel was not written in Lashon HaKodesh. It's very interesting. Certainly Hashem must have communicated to Daniel in Lashon HaKodesh, I would think, but he rendered the Sefer Daniel in Aramaic, and perhaps that was because the that was the popular tongue of the Jewish people at that time. I'm not sure. That'll have to be something that we'll look into. Why is it among all of the Sforim in Tanakh that Daniel, I think, is the only sefer that I'm aware of that there was not rendered in Lashon HaKodesh. Okay. Uh-huh. All right, so a round of applause for language. Hey. I don't know why he didn't name this chapter Lashon HaKodesh.
Yeah, that's true.
Of course, we know that I think historically, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, this was one of the main objections of the reformers, that they wanted to have the prayers rendered into German so that they would because that's their language. They considered that to be their language. That's the language they spoke in. That's the language they understood. I don't know if it was a matter that they didn't even understand Hebrew at all. They didn't have any connection to it at all. They weren't educated in the knowledge of it. But that was one of the main features of the Reform movement, that they have the prayers in German.
But it seems that Rab Hirsch is saying that there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, that's what you think he's saying?
Yeah, he says if you don't know Hebrew.
Oh, yeah. You have to be very careful with what you're saying. If somebody doesn't know Hebrew, so then there's a b'diavad, there's a dispensation for him to find as accurate a translation as possible, so that he could pray. But it seems to me that he's going on and on and on about the fact that it's vital that we shouldn't translate the prayers and take a different language, and we see that that's what Anshe Knesset Gedola did. The prayers that they composed were in Lashon HaKodesh, and that was in spite of the fact that it was not the popular tongue of the Jewish people at that time.
Right.
So I think we see that Rav Hirsch is saying that ideally the what should be is that Jewish youth should be educated not only in Judaism but to be proficient in understanding Lashon HaKodesh, so that they could learn the Torah in its original language, and that they can daven in the language of that Anshe Knesset Gedola composed the prayers, because the prayers they were composed by there was people on the Anshe Knesset Gedola that were prophets. The last of the prophets were an Anshe Knesset Gedola, and it's Ruach HaKodesh and prophecy that they were blessed with, and the words have a special meaning that cannot possibly be rendered into another language. But so it's not ideal that we have to resort to translations. I think that's what I see what Rav Hirsch is saying.
Right.
See, that's the unfortunate reality that modern Jews find themselves in today, that they don't know Hebrew because they were not taught it. They're not familiar with it.
Right.
so therefore they have a, they have to, it's a struggle. Okay.
Mm.
All right, time is up.
Time is up. Okay. Another great day to Mayor. Bez
Okay.
Hashem.
Thank you very much. And
Thank-
all of you should have a good day.
Amen. All the best.
Yes, thank you.